Good day and greetings from the Great White North. My name is Prickly Poo and welcome to day 116 of a year of change. Today we're going to sort of get back to what we should have been doing for quite a while. When we started in on this sort of midweek snack thing, it originally was to be a way of showing here's what we can do as an alternative to all the cookies and cakes and everything else that we've been snacking on for so long. And a couple of times we've gotten away from that. Like with the peas, although it's still better than what we're doing, there are some better alternatives even to those. So I sort of wanted to not exactly reset, and we'll certainly get back to little ones like pickles and peas and grapes and all the other good stuff and dates, even though they're sort of high calorie stuff. But I'm going to go the opposite way today and look at something that may not be for everyone, but it sort of encompasses all three of the sweet, salty, and sour sort of cravings that we get from time to time. Now I found actually I should probably show you what it is actually first. It's these. These are they're grape tomatoes. Whether or not you actually like tomatoes, these don't taste any different. These just taste like regular tomatoes, except you feel like a giant when you eat them because they're very, very tiny. And they sort of vary in size, as you can see. But the main thing with these is that I find if you want something sweet, then they aren't really sugary, but they're sweet enough that they'll take care of that. If you want something salty, then they're salty enough, they'll take care of that. And if you want something sour, there's enough acid in it. That sounds really bad. They're acidic enough that they'll sort of alleviate that as well. So they're sort of a good catch-all. The main thing with these as well, though, is that they're really, really low in calories. Depending on the size, you can go anywhere from, this is probably like 2 calories, and even the bigger ones are averaging around 5. So you can eat a ton of these, and really not, you can have 20 of them, and it's only going to be like 100 calories. So, one good thing with these as well, now, if you start looking up stuff on tomatoes, you're going to read a lot of stuff about something called lycopene, which is like a derivative of vitamin A or something. And there are people that are going, oh, well, it helps with prostate cancer and breast cancer and AIDS and all sorts of other things. And it's just, there's really no evidence to any of it. But people seem to have latched onto that for some reason. But any study that they've done, and there have been very, very, very few, really haven't found any connection between anything. So before you sort of get all excited and go, oh, I'm going to start eating these and have lycopene dreams and everything else, you just sort of set that by the wayside. The main thing with these is that they have a lot of fiber in them. And we haven't really gotten into this sort of detail things for fiber, which we'll do at some later point. But basically there are 2 types. There's soluble fiber, which just sort of turns to gel and surrounds all the stuff and slows your digestion down and makes you feel fuller longer, basically. And insoluble, which doesn't really dissolve or turn into anything, but it soaks up a lot of water, sort of like a sponge, and then sort of sweeps through your body. You can go look up, I suppose, the different things on fiber. We probably should do one later on just on fiber to get some really good details as to what you should eat and the amount and everything. But with tomatoes, the skin itself is the insoluble part. So that'll sort of sweep through you and help your poops. The rest of it, the flesh inside, is the insoluble. So when you eat that, it dissolves down, it sort of turns into a gel, and it stays in your stomach longer. So it doesn't actually take very many of these. Like if you were to take 20 of them, we'll just use 20 and say they're 5 calories, because that way it's a nice round number for 100 calories. You get full fairly quickly, and you stay fuller longer with it because everything just sort of slows down. So it's, especially if you enjoy tomatoes, they're a really, really good alternative, and they're fairly cheap. I bought a 2-pound box for $5, which sort of sounds like a lot when you think of, $5, but as far as a meal goes, like if you were just to eat that for a meal, and even the size I am, that's 3 or 4 meals, because when you eat them, you get full fairly quickly. And if you were to have, say, 20 of them, that's probably 2 cups worth, so 2 big handfuls, and They do. They fill you up. They tend to keep you fuller longer. So for a snack, it's really good because the main thing with the snack that we end up having, aside from the cravings portion of it, is that we start getting hungry. So unfortunately, for most of us, myself included, when we have a snack, it ends up being a meal. So we're eating 5 or 6 large meals every single day, which is what we're trying to get away from. So these are a pretty good alternative for it. Now, if you're not a tomato fan, this is not going to help you all that much. But in general, I mean, if you like this, just I was going to try to give you an example. You know what sort of things have tomatoes in them. Ketchup and tomato sauce and everything else. Ketchup is probably not a good example because there's a lot of sugar in it that they add to it. But as far as these really do sort of... There are times that you're going to have a craving for something sweet. And you can pick different types of tomatoes. And most times they're going to be labeled as to how sweet they are. They're just sort of like peppers, which will show you how hot they are, usually on the package itself. Which, oddly enough, these are actually from the same family. These are all tomatoes and peppers and eggplant and all that stuff. They're all from the Nightshade family. Interesting little fact for you. These used to be thought of as being poison long, long ago. And for some of you, maybe they still are. But I forgot what I was talking about. I've completely lost my train of thought. Get distracted talking about poisoned plants and all the fancy stuff, and now I don't know what I'm talking about. So yes, okay, good enough. So eating these as part of a snack. Generally, we start getting hungry, so we end up eating larger meals. These will fill you up fairly quickly. So you can, but the thing is, they're so low calorie that you can eat a tremendous amount of them. Now again, this, especially where we're sort of looking at our sugar and sodium and fat levels and everything else, there's almost no fat in them whatsoever. There is some fiber in there, but there is going to be some sugar and some sodium that you need to worry about. But when you get that sort of, yes, that's what we're talking about. The sweetness levels. There we go. I don't know really if there's any tangible difference in the taste between a little tiny one like this and a fairly medium-sized one. Or this is actually a large one. Like they aren't sweeter the smaller they get or anything like that, but there are different breeds of tomatoes that you can go and you can find, and that some are going to be sweeter than others, so you can sort of pick and choose that way. But generally they're sweet enough that they're obviously going to be something like chocolate or, you know, a yogurt covered peanut, which I tried for the first time this week. Was actually going to do one on that. I thought these are really bad. There are 11 calories for each peanut, which is actually, if you look at a peanut, there's 2 seeds, and then you take out one of the seeds and cut it in half. That half of one covered in yogurt is 11 calories. So I thought probably best to not do that. We're trying to get better here. But these have, again, lost sweetness. There we go. They aren't going to be as sweet as, obviously, candy or, you know, chocolate-covered raisins or something like that. But they're sweet enough that, for me anyway, and it might be because I don't eat a lot of sugary stuff, I didn't think until I saw the fruit, that it's enough that it'll sort of get rid of that sweet craving that I have. Not, obviously, as well as a chocolate bar or something. You're still going to go, it wasn't quite good enough, but it's enough that it'll be enough that you won't think, okay, now I still need chocolate. It'll be enough that it'll get you over that hump and give you a little bit of boost that you can say, okay, I can do without the chocolate now. I've had enough of that. Same thing with salt. And I think that's sort of part of the acidity of it, is that if you're craving salt, then these do come across as fairly salty. But it's the acid in them. It's not the same as like a lemon or an orange. It's actually just salt. I can't think of a better term for it. I'm not being very helpful, am I? I'm sorry. Same thing with something sour. That it's because of the acidity in it, it does sort of fix that as well. It's about, I would say, this. I was going to compare it to one of those little sour candies that you would get. And I suppose if you eat enough of them, they sort of start getting that way. But they're just, it's weird because no matter what you're sort of craving, for me anyway, it's not enough to say, oh, well, thank God, I finally got rid of that craving. I don't need it anymore. But it's enough that it will say, you'll say, okay, that's good enough. It'll keep me from having to sort of break down and say, screw it, and then start eating a bunch of candy. all at once. Which, by the way, I did end up buying again. Took it to work to share with other people, the chocolate-covered pretzels, because I thought they're not too bad. I got 7, and everyone else ate the rest, so I'm okay. But now I've got everyone else eating them, which is probably bad. I should try to get them eating these. So, actually, I'm going to grab a bunch of these, because just to give you an idea, I've got a handful of them here, and like I say, these, you could probably, if you filled up like a measuring cup, 2 cups worth, it's going to be enough that it's going to get you full. It's only going to be about 100 calories. It's a lot of food, and it will keep you going until the next meal. Technically, you could use it as your meal anyway, but let's be realistic here. We tend to eat a lot. We're trying to make better choices, and this is probably one of the better ones that you can make. And of course, I mean, you don't have to eat them plain. You throw them in with your salad or whatever food you're eating, or actually you could stick a couple of handfuls next to any meal that you're eating and eat those alongside of the meal. You're probably going to eat a little bit less because these are going to fill you up pretty quick. And it's a lasting fullness. It doesn't, is that a word? Yeah, it's a word. Fine. We'll say it's a word. So, and again, if you don't like tomatoes, sorry. It's a bit of a waste for you. But there are other snack ones that you can have in the meantime that we've gone over before. And if we've not hit upon something yet, then you're probably a picky eater. Because we've done dates, we've done pickles, we've done spices, we've done tomatoes, we've done peas, we've done a whole bunch of other little snack things. And if you're still going, I don't like that, then you're just picky. So, there, I said it. Yeah, take that. I really have nothing more to say about these. Obviously, because they're a fruit, which I know there's that whole tomatoes look like a vegetable, but technically they're a fruit thing. But they obviously, you need to sort of, you can add that in there with your number of fruits and vegetables a day that we're trying to do. And I know that we haven't been adding more and more as we go. We sort of stopped adding those because it's now just sort of a part of our diet. But if we can start to sort of bleed these in with snacks and things like that, rather than going for chips or candy or chocolate or whatever it is that you go for, even if you took 1 or 2 days a week and said, okay, these are the days that when I need something, I'm going to try these and sort of see how they go, whether it's to help with the sugar craving or help with salt, whatever it is. For me anyway, these seem to do the trick. And like I say, it's not the same as having a handful of sour candy. And it's not the same as having a handful of chips, obviously, because you're still going to be craving the fat and the salt and the carbs and everything else. Very few carbohydrates in this as well. But it's enough that it'll just sort of give you enough to go, okay, I'm a little full. That wasn't exactly what I wanted. But it's enough that it's going to prevent me from binging and breaking down and going over my points. Or calories for the day. I keep calling them points, and I don't know why. Anyway, that's really all I have to say. There's really not a lot more I can do. They're grape tomatoes. You go and you should be able to find them pretty much any grocery store that's close to you. Again, take a look at the packaging because there are a ton of different species that you can go for. I don't know if it's a species or just a variety. That's probably a better one. Different varieties that you can go for. Some are going to be sweeter than others. So if you have a really, if that's your thing, that it's sugar, try to find one that is as sweet as you possibly can. You're still going to get sugar out of it, but it's a hell of a lot better than going and buying a chocolate bar or something like that. And in the long run, that's what we're trying to do. Plus, these are going to fill you up more than a chocolate bar, and it's not going to make you hungry again later on down the road. As far as the fiber content goes, it's small, but if you're eating quite a few of these, it's probably going to help. And like I say, at some point in the future, we should probably do one just on fiber. That's one sort of the 5 things that we did: the protein, carbohydrates, sodium, fat, and sugar. We should have probably touched on fiber as well. Fiber basically does 2 things: helps you feel full and helps you poop. So those are the 2 things that we need to sort of not really focus on pooping, but that's one of the other things that we probably should focus on as part of our diet, because there is some percentage that you should be doing. It's like a certain number of grams per calories. I don't know exactly what the math is. I want to say it's 10 grams for every 1,000 calories. and I don't know why I want to say that. So it may not be true, but you can look it up for yourself and see what you need. But at some point, we will do one just on fiber. Maybe try to find a snack that's really high in fiber. I mean, the ones that we've done so far, like dates are, these are. I don't know if we've done any others. Maybe the peas, but those are sort of straying into junk food territory, which is what we're trying to get away from. Which is why I sort of wanted to reset and come back to something that's a little more practical, but something that's still going to taste really, really good. Unless you don't like tomatoes. But for the vast majority of us that do, these are probably going to be your thing. And I understand, you know, when you think, well, $5 for a 2-pound box. But when you consider that you're saying, well, that's a lot of tomatoes. It's a plural. There are probably 50 or more tomatoes in the box. So you're looking at 3 or 4 snacks or 3 or 4 meals, depending on how full you get, for $5. And when you compare that to the price of, say, a chocolate bar, that you're going to scarf down right away, it's going to alleviate that temporarily, but you're going to still be hungry and you're going to still want more. I think it's a good alternative. So I would urge you to try these, even just for the rest of this week. Go out next time that you're grocery shopping and just pick up one, even just a small container. You don't need to buy the great big box like I did. Go out, buy a small container, try to find one that you think is going to match what your tastes are. If you like sugar, then try to get ones that are really, really sweet. And they usually have labels on them showing like from 1 to 10 or whatever the level is on them. If sour is your thing, try to find something, you know, a little, not exactly bitter, but less sugar in it. And if you like sort of the middle ground or you like sour stuff, a nice medium one should probably help. I don't know what these ones are. I should have paid attention before I started this recording. But I don't really know where these sort of stand. I assume that they're somewhere in the middle. But they seem to do the trick for me. And I think it's probably a smarter idea for me to start doing this on a regular basis instead of the chocolate-covered pretzels. Which were nice for a while. But I'm kind of glad that I didn't get any last time. Because I generally sort of bring them in and have people try new things. And I brought those in and everyone just sort of ran with them. So, and I gave the rest away at the end of the night. So I feel sort of good about that. But part of it was because I had some of these with me. So anyway, yes, grape tomatoes. That is our snack for the week. So try that next time that you're out there. Even if you think, well, I'm not a big fan of pasta sauce or salsa, things like that. I mean, tomatoes are tomatoes. They taste the same in pretty much anything. So at least give it a try. Taste buds do change. We've talked about that before, and that every couple of years you may want to try something new. And if you don't like it, someone in your house probably will, or a friend might. So at least you've tried. That's the main thing. And as we're trying to sort of get prepared for tracking the sodium and the sugars and the fats and everything else, you really can't go wrong with having vegetables for a snack. Not that you can eat, well, you almost can eat as much as you want with these. I mean, 5 calories a piece for these, and these are the size of a really large grape. So 2 cups worth is not bad for 100 calories. Much better than a lot of the stuff that we're eating right now, myself included, for snacks, which I need to sort of get away from. Over the past few weeks, I've noticed that there are little junk foody things that are slowly starting to creep in. So I need to get, I keep saying I need to get back on track, and I feel like I'm sort of failing in a lot of ways. I'm staying under my calories and things like that, but I think it's because we're just getting ready to start looking a little more detailed and trying to balance out the protein and the carbohydrates and all the other fancy stuff. And fiber as well now. I'm going to have to start looking at that. We'll do that later. We'll get all of our bad things taken care of, and then we'll start looking at the good things. So we'll start with the sodium and the fat and the sugar, and then we will start looking at protein, carbohydrates, and fiber. There we go. We'll divide them up equally. So we'll do it that way. But for right now, I'm pretty much out. So go buy a little box of Nightshade. Enjoy. Have fun. At least try them. And if you find that it's not, again, not sweet enough, try to buy it as sweet as you can find. I'm going to stop. And you know what? I'm going to start repeating myself again. I'm going to stop myself right in the middle of repeating it. But for right now, thank you very much for watching the video. If you liked it, please poke the like button for me. In the meantime, keep yourself warm and fuzzy, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.